Right now, we are going to go through my top 10 most alpha movies ever made that will make you proud to be a man. And the thing about these top 10 movies that I'm about to share with you is the fact that none of these movies, not a single one, has any feminist propaganda in it, and there is absolutely zero Mary Sue characters involved in them. Okay? So no feminist propaganda and no Mary Sue characters. All right, so let's jump into this list. And you know what? You may agree with my list. You may disagree, right? That's what the comment section's for. So if you have any other movies you want to list that I don't list on this list today, my top 10 list, then feel free to let me know down below. But I really had to think about this too, because there were so many great movies I wanted to include on this list, but I wanted to limit it to 10, and I wanted to make sure that I pick the most alpha movies that I had personally seen, that I had personally liked, and that friends of mine liked, that you guys have liked, and that would showcase just basically men being men, right? Men in their just raw masculine selves. Men in their just I don't give a shit selves, right? So a lot of these movies, not all, but a lot of them that I'm about to mention are before the year 2000, obviously, right? Because after the year 2000, as I've mentioned to you guys, that's when you started to see a lot more feminist propaganda kind of seep into movies. You know, that's not to say that there weren't any before the year 2000, because there were. You know, I could point out in several movies like little bits of propaganda in certain movies and TV shows, even TV shows I liked, movies I liked, but they are very, very subtle. These days, they're pretty blatant, and they're not hiding the fact of what they're trying to brainwash you with. In tonight's coaching video, we're going to go through my top 10 most alpha movies that will make you proud to be a dude. So let's get started. All right, so the first movie on my list is a movie called Commando, 1985, with Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you haven't seen Commando, man, you gotta see Commando, right? The funny thing about Commando is this movie had, at the time, like the most kills ever made in a movie up until that point. I don't know if there's been a movie since that has beaten it, but there were the most kills ever in a movie. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's obviously the star of the film. His name, actually, funny enough, his name in the movie is Matrix. And he's this former Special Forces, retired, he's like this retired Special Forces Army guy who, just watch the movie. It's a great movie. There's a lot of masculinity in it, a lot of brawn. Don't expect a whole lot of, storytelling or plot twists. It's just an in-your-face action, slight comedy type film, right, that you will enjoy. It's super entertaining from front to back. You will not get bored watching this movie, and you might even be able to find it on YouTube. So watch Commando. I recommend everybody watch Commando. So that's my first top 10 alpha male recommendation for you tonight. All right, the second alpha movie that I highly recommend all you guys watch is also starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Surprise, surprise. That movie was The Terminator, 1984. Okay, I'm talking about the original Terminator, not all of these sequels that came after that, even though the second sequel, Judgment Day, was pretty good. I'm not talking about all the other sequels that came after, especially the ones lately where they brought back Sarah Connor and it's all a bunch of women, and yeah, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the original Terminator. You must watch that. The 1984 original with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Michael Biehn and who was the girl? Linda Hamilton. I was about to say Sarah Connor. Linda Hamilton, right? Even though she came back recently. I'm talking about the original Terminator. That's my second alpha movie that I'm recommending you watch. And actually, that one is free on YouTube right now because I watched that with my girl not that long ago. We're like, oh, shoot, it's free on YouTube. So we took advantage. We watched it. So you could find that on YouTube. The third alpha movie I highly recommend, especially if you're a father, a single dad. You'll like this movie. It's called Over the Top, 1987, starring Sylvester Stallone. And this is a great father-son movie. I love this movie. I saw this movie with my dad, and You know, this movie is still special to me to this day, even when it comes on or I happen to watch it. It's one of those movies I try not to watch too much. I just like to watch it on special occasions because it does remind me of my relationship with my father. And there was especially a scene, too, in Over the Top where Stallone's son, his name was Mike, right, in the movie. His name was Mike. And they were at like an arcade or something like that. And there were these two other like kids that were about his age, and his father made him challenge those bigger kids, because they were bigger than him, made him challenge those bigger kids to an arm wrestling match. And his son was much smaller, and his son was like, no, no. And his father was like, no, you got to do this. You got to do it. You can do it. Right? And he really pushed his son to do it. So that was a great scene. That's something that my dad like routinely made me do in the growing up. He would routinely made me push myself out of my comfort zone and routinely made me take on challengers like that were bigger than me and faster and smarter. And if you watch this movie, it'll remind you a lot of you and your dad, or you and your son even, right? Especially if you have a son. You should watch this movie together. It's called Over the Top, 1987, with Sylvester Stallone. My fourth Alpha movie recommendation, also starring Sylvester Stallone, and you guys can agree or disagree with me on this, but I love this movie. It's my favorite in the Rocky series, and that was Rocky IV, 1985. I love Rocky IV. Go ahead, drop some hater comments about it, but I love Rocky IV. This was really the last real Rocky, I want to say. The last one where I felt like he was at his peak, he had his money, he had the life, he was at his prime, and he went to go fight this Russian guy who was unstoppable. He was killing people, killed Apollo Creed. Great soundtrack in this movie. I remember the scene with where he was driving his Lambo at night. Right, he just accepted the challenge to fight Ivan Drago. His wife was like, "No, you can't win." And then he jumps in his Lambo, and then he starts playing that music. Dun 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 dun. No Easy Way Out. Sorry, I had to sing it a little bit. But yeah, they started pumping No Easy Way Out, and he was like driving his Lambo, and he was having all these flashbacks of the past. This was a movie where he trained the hardest that he ever did. He got in the best shape. In any movie you've seen Stallone, in Rocky IV, this was the best shape that he's ever been able to get in. I mean, even since then, I mean, that was like, yeah, that was his peak right there. So Rocky IV was my favorite. Obviously, I like the other Rocky movies too. Love Rocky III with Clubber Lang, right? I still think Clubber Lang was like the best opponent, like most entertaining opponent that he's faced in any of the Rocky movies, just because he was so boisterous and just like mean and intimidating looking. And whenever you're a challenger for anything, I always like advise students to just really take on that persona almost of like a Clubber Lang. He's just out to just destroy, right? He's just like full of self-belief. There isn't an ounce of doubt in his mind that he was going to beat up, he was going to beat Rocky Balboa, and he did, right, in that first fight. But love Rocky III. The first and the second Rockies are good as well, but the fourth, that's just my favorite. He goes all the way to Russia. He trains in the snow. He runs up this mountain. And then when he gets to the top of the mountain, he's like, Drago! Drago! Right? It's just very inspirational. I love that scene. I love this movie. And you know what? Feel free to disagree with me, but I'm putting it on a list. So that is my fourth Alpha movie recommendation, is Rocky IV, 1985. Highly recommend you watch that. It will pump you up. I mean, the soundtrack alone will pump you up, and can't get enough of that movie. Like, when did that come out now? How long ago was that? This is 35 years ago. Still to this day, that movie pumps me up. Especially that scene, No Way Out. Oh, love that scene. All right, moving on. My fifth movie recommendation, Alpha movie recommendation that I have for you is, I got to put this on the list. It's Point Break, 1991. If you have not seen Point Break with Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves, 1991, you've got to see this movie. It's about a bunch of bank robbers. They're like surfers as well during the day, but they're robbing banks at night, and they're constantly on this adrenaline rush. And that's the reason why they rob banks, is they just want to get enough money to continue their lifestyle and chase the endless summer. So these guys are just moving from like location to location, just chasing the endless summer and robbing banks in the meantime to fund their lifestyle, right? And so they're like doing all sorts of adrenaline junkie type stuff. It's one of those like good bro movies that you just don't see anymore, where it's like two guys just relating to each other, two guys just bonding with each other. A lot of male bonding in this movie, right? And you don't see the females like taking over and shit. Because even in movies these days, you might point out some movies after 2000 like, no, hey Em, what about this movie? Some good bro bonding. I'll like watch it, and then like the female characters take over the movie, and it's like, dude, right? No, I want the dudes who are in this movie to stay in the lead. I don't want any of these chicks who are background players all of a sudden to like take over the lead, right? I don't want them coming in and like all of a sudden they're now the star of the movie. So I like Point Break, 1991. Highly recommend you watch that. That movie is easily one of my favorites. Easily. All right, moving on. Number 6 on my list of alpha movies. Gotta include this movie, Top Gun, 1986. How do you not include Top Gun on your list of alpha movies? Top Gun's got to be on the list. I don't care who agrees or disagrees. It's got to be on the list, guys. So Top Gun 1986 with Tom Cruise, Kelly McGillis, Val Kilmer. All right, this movie was phenomenal. If you have not watched this movie, what planet have you been living on, right? If you have not watched Top Gun 1986, what planet have you been living on? Incredible soundtrack, incredible acting, a lot of raw male like amogging and masculinity, and you know what? And the female characters stay feminine. None of these chicks are trying to act like dudes. I mean, you might argue Charlie is trying to act like a dude a little bit, right? Her name's even Charlie. But for the most part, she stays feminine. I know there's a new Top Gun coming out that has already been filmed apparently, and it's supposed to come out in like 2021 or something. But that movie, I'm definitely already seeing some feminist propaganda. They got like female pilots and all this stuff, and so yeah, that's some propaganda. And you know, if you want to argue about that, I mean, yeah, if you see these chicks like crashing their airplanes and stuff like that, do your own research. But I'm not going to include that one on the list. I haven't seen it, right? But I will include Top Gun 1986. So definitely watch Top Gun. It'll make you want to become a naval aviator. It'll make you want to fly airplanes. It'll make you want to just get out there and like jump on a motorcycle and go at 100 miles per hour with your hair on fire. One other thing I'll add about Top Gun is a lot of pickup terms came from that movie, right? Where we call the girl we're approaching a target, right? Came from the movie Top Gun. Where did we get these call signs, right? Like M, Cajun, Mystery, right? Where do we get those call signs? It's from Top Gun. Same thing, right? They were using call signs as naval aviators, and we were using them back when they had forums, right? It was mostly to protect our identity at the time, and rightfully so, because a lot of these guys did not end up building a pickup business like I did. A lot of them moved on to regular jobs, and they were not, you know, it would have been harder for them to get hired if they had all this, like, all their infield reports out there. But a lot of pickup terminology came from the movie Top Gun, and yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. All right, number 7 on my list of top alpha movies. This is one that you can agree or disagree, but I love this movie. Starring Bruce Willis, 1988, Die Hard. The original Die Hard, where they were at the Nakatomi Plaza, and he was up against these terrorists, Hans Gruber. I forget his real name in real life. Why can't I think of his real name? But Hans Gruber, phenomenal bad guy. Did a great acting job. It's almost become like a tradition. I watch it every Christmas, like around the Christmas time. I just end up watching this movie. The original Die Hard with Bruce Willis. This movie just doesn't get old. It's like entertaining. It's funny. There's action, drama, there's comedy, everything you can ask for in a movie. And you know what? No feminism. Zero feminism. His wife, she doesn't act like a dude. She doesn't grab a gun and start shooting people too. No, she's just like, hey, I want my husband to get out of this safely. I don't want anybody hurt. You know, she's not out there like turning into a Mary Sue. All of a sudden she has like military combat skills or sniper, you know, she's like a A-level sniper. No, she just stays his wife, and she just stays as a supportive wife. Right? So zero feminism in this movie. That's what I like about this Die Hard. I don't know about the ones that came after it. They were okay, but this one was my favorite. And like I said, I watch it every Christmas. I love this movie. It's funny, it's hilarious, and it's just entertaining from start to finish. So Die Hard 1988 is number 7 on my Alpha Male movie list. Number 8 on my list is a movie called Heat from 1995. This movie has a ton of action in it, and it's one of these movies that really stands the test of time. In this movie, you've got Robert De Niro, you've got Al Pacino, you've got Val Kilmer. So you got a lot of big stars in this. You got Charlize Theron, and guess what? Charlize Theron wasn't acting like no Mary Sue in this film, right? Unlike these days, like she's in Mad Max and all these other films, like, oh, she's like the hero, save the man. No, this was before 2000, guys. So her role in this, no, it wasn't Charlize Theron, sorry. It was Ashley Judd. I always get those two confused. Ashley Judd, but same thing with Ashley Judd, right? Ashley Judd started taking on these roles where she was like a Mary Sue. But back here, no. In the movie Heat, she played Val Kilmer's wife, and guess what? She acted like a wife. She didn't act like no strong, empowered woman. No, that would have killed the movie, right? Instead, she just tried to be his supportive wife. Jon Voight was in this movie too, and it's pretty violent at times, but it's about a bunch of guys who take scores, not only just like robbing big banks, but they take like big scores that have big amounts of money involved, and there's a lot of strategy, a lot of planning involved in their scores. So it's just a really entertaining film. And the guy who directed this film was named his name is Michael Mann, and he used to be the director and creator of Miami Vice. If you guys remember Miami Vice with Don Johnson, who was actually my boss at one time. Believe it or not, Don Johnson was actually my boss. Crazy, right? He was like my hero when I was in high school, and I was like, one day I was like, shit, he's my boss. Cool. Michael Mann directed this, and it's a movie that I highly recommend. It's a great movie, great flick. Heat 1995. I actually saw this in the movie theater. So great movie to watch. All right, looks like the battery got cut off, so I'm going to finish this coaching video here. So my 9th top 10 alpha male movie pick is going to be Roadhouse 1989, starring Patrick Swayze. And if you haven't seen this movie, you should. He was very alpha in this movie. He played kind of like a glorified bouncer. They call him a cooler, right? He's in charge of basically all the other bouncers and telling them what to do. And it was just a pretty solid movie. It was fun. It was entertaining. And he just kind of like traveled from roadhouse to roadhouse, and he would clean it up and make it profitable again, get rid of all the garbage and, you know, all the bad people, all the bad customers and stuff like that. But he basically played this tough guy bouncer, and he wasn't what you would expect a bouncer to look like. And matter of fact, there's a tagline in that movie where he constantly says, oh, you know, oh, so you're Dalton, right? So his character's name in that movie was Dalton. It's like, oh, so you're Dalton. I thought you'd be bigger, right? So that was the whole tagline. I thought you'd be bigger, because he didn't look like the prototypical, like, big-ass bouncer. But he was super alpha to the core, and I highly recommend you watch this movie, Roadhouse 1989. Very enjoyable, and one of Patrick Swayze's very, very underrated movies. All right, my 10th and final alpha male movie that I'm going to include on this list is a 007 movie. It is Casino Royale 2006. And before you start griping like, Daniel Craig's that alpha, I get it, okay? I get it. I've seen the dude do a lot of beta things in his real life. But the character he played in that movie was 100% alpha and 100% embodied the qualities and the characteristics of an alpha, outside of him constantly, you know, just kind of like blue pill simping for Vesper, who was the female lead in that movie, and then simping into another like 1 or 2 sequels still talking about her. I mean, it was getting to the point where I'm like, can he just get over this chick now and can we just move on? But his character that he played in Casino Royale was alpha to the core, and it's very, very strange. There's a strange phenomenon going on in Hollywood now where it's like these beta actors are playing very alpha characters on screen and are pulling it off. Right? They're pulling it off, but they themselves in real life are not actually behaving in that manner. So it's kind of interesting how art is imitating life versus life imitating art, or the other way around. Right? So that is my 10th top 10 alpha male movie that I'm going to include on this list, and I'm going to include an 11th bonus alpha movie that must be included on this list, and that movie is Fight Club, which was released in the year 2000, I believe, starring Brad Pitt and Ed Norton. And this movie was very alpha, very masculine. It was about a bunch of guys who kind of just formed this fight club, and it started to grow, and it grew out of control, and it was basically in every major city. And funny, because I kind of feel like we have our own little fight club going on here with all the red pill stuff and the manosphere. Got our own little fight club, right? And as you guys know, what is the first rule of Fight Club? First rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. Okay, but it was a great movie and definitely deserves to be on this list, so I'm going to include this as the 11th bonus alpha movie. And I suggest you watch it. I haven't watched this movie in a while. I just remember one of the taglines was, "I want you to hit me as hard as you can." That's what Brad Pitt said. And then Ed Norton's character was like, "What? Are you crazy?" Also, Brad Pitt's character, Tyler Durden, was very, very popular back in the day, and a very famous PUA took that name, Tyler Durden. So a lot of great quotes came out of that movie too from Tyler, a lot of red pill quotes. So highly suggest you watch it, and I'm going to include that on my list as well. Let me go ahead and name a few just for honorable mention, because there are several other movies that you just can't, it's just hard to compress into a top 10 list. So I'm just gonna fire off a few off the top of my head that are my personal favorites that I own the DVD to. Yeah, I still have DVDs in my storage that I still enjoy watching every time and again, and you might too. So I'm just gonna name off some of my other favorite movies. Maybe you might enjoy these as well. Again, I'm just going to go off the top of my head. 1996, The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery. Very alpha movie. Very action-packed. Zero feminism. Right? No feminism. No chicks like jumping in the middle of, you know, a bunch of guys, a bunch of military guys, and just whooping their ass, even though she's like, you know, 100 pounds soaking wet and like 5'2". She's like kicking all these guys' asses who are like 10 times bigger than her. Nope. The Rock, 1996. Very, very enjoyable. A lot of action scenes. Probably one of Michael Bay's best movies. Speaking of Michael Bay, 1999, Armageddon with Bruce Willis. Another very, very alpha movie. Lots of masculinity. Tons of lead males. Tons of men, I should say, in the leading roles. That is something that you just don't see very often these days. So Armageddon, 1999, is also one of my favorites. I didn't include Star Wars on this list. You know, I don't know if that would qualify as more like a top 10 alpha list, but the original Star Wars I'm talking about, 1977. Very enjoyable film. I still like watching that movie. That was before, again, all these Mary Sue characters invaded all these films. But the original Star Wars, 1977, as well as all of the sequels that came after that. And even those prequels that George Lucas did, including Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, which I actually really enjoyed. And then after that, I just stopped watching the Star Wars films. Once Disney bought Star Wars, I literally stopped watching. I haven't watched a single one of those. Okay, and I refuse to, and I have no interest in them. But all the ones that George Lucas had his hand in on,
I still watch, I still support, but all these other Disney garbage ones that are, you know, basically feminized, no, not gonna watch those. Let's see, what else? Gone in 60 Seconds. That came out in the year 2000 with Nicolas Cage. I enjoyed that movie just because I saw the original. Gone in 60 Seconds, 1974. Those are both very, very alpha movies. I highly recommend you watch. Let's see, 1968, Bullet, Steve McQueen, where he's got that Mustang. That also is a movie that I enjoyed a lot, and matter of fact, I just saw that Mustang go up for auction a few years ago, and the Mustang they used in that movie, which was a 68 Ford Mustang GT, sold for like $3.5 million at auction. Crazy, right? Crazy. So, 1968 Bullet, 1955 Rebel Without a Cause, James Dean. Dude was super alpha in that movie. And that's another movie, an older movie that I highly recommend you watch. Let's see, what are some of my other favorites? 1986, Cobra, Sylvester Stallone, very, very alpha movie. Most of Stallone's movies back then were pretty alpha. So he did Cobra. Highly suggest you guys watch that. Very, very fun movie. Cliffhanger, 1994, where he was basically playing this like ski rescue guy, like a mountain climber. That's definitely an entertaining movie to watch with John Lithgow. Great performances all around. And you know what? No Mary Sue characters, right? No Mary Sue characters in that film. It was all the guys who took the lead and were saving the women, as it usually happens in real life, right? I have not seen in real life like too many women saving boatloads of men. But that is another movie. It's Cliffhanger. Also, Demolition Man, Stallone, 1993. Great movie with Stallone and Wesley Snipes. Kind of takes place in the future where Stallone was frozen and then they unfreeze him like 20 years later, and the entire planet's changed. He was living in Los Angeles. Now it's called San Angeles or something like that. But great movie as well. Just some fun ones. Smokey and the Bandit, 1977, Burt Reynolds. Corvette Summer, that was one of my favorites, 1978. If you're a Corvette fan, you probably saw that movie. I always wanted to buy the car in that movie, the actual Corvette that Mark Hamill drove in that movie, which actually, funny enough, Corvette Summer was Mark Hamill's second movie after Star Wars. So right after he did Star Wars, he jumped into Corvette Summer. And he still kind of makes fun of himself that he was in that movie. But I really love the car in that movie, even though it looks a little crazy these days. But I was actually on the hunt for that car about a year or two ago, still am, and still interested in purchasing it and adding it to my car collection. So Corvette Summer, Cannonball Run, 1981, the first one. I didn't care for the sequel, but the very first one, also with Burt Reynolds. He was a big star back then, back in those days. 1993, The Program. It was a football movie. So you guys are football fans. It was about college football, and ironically at the time I was playing college football, so I really related to that movie, and it really, really captured the essence of what college football is like, and especially at that time. I don't think it's changed much since then, but 1993, The Program, and James Caan was in that movie, Omar Epps, really good cast. And really fun, enjoyable. Christy Swanson. Speaking of football movies, Varsity Blues, 1999. It was about high school football. Enjoyed that as well. Also, 2004, Friday Night Lights. That was also a great football movie. It's about high school football. So you can tell I'm pretty biased towards football movies. Not all of them, but there's certain ones that I gravitate towards that really, really just kind of bring me back to that time that I still enjoy watching, and bring me back to when I played ball. So brings back a lot of great memories, and these are all just very, very guy type movies, right? They're guy type movies, but you know what? You can watch them with your girl too. That's a great thing. And it's a good test for your girl, by the way. I want to say this, guys. It's a good test for your girl. When you throw on these movies, that she doesn't get bored, she just doesn't start looking down at her phone or start doing her own thing, but instead she's into it with you. That's a sign of a good girl. If your chick sits there and she watches these movies with you that I mentioned in tonight's coaching video, and she enjoys them with you, good chick, right? that's a good sign. In a very subtle way, that's kind of been almost like a test for the girls that I date. You know, if I ever throw on a movie, and usually I'll throw on one of the movies I've mentioned, right? If not some other ones I can't think of right now. And if I see her just kind of get bored or just not interested in it, it's probably not a good sign, right? It's not a deal breaker, but it's just not a good sign. It just means I'm not going to watch movies with her. We're not going to have the same taste in movies. That's a little tidbit for you there. Trying to think of any other ones before we wrap up here. Speed with Keanu Reeves, 1994. I think it was 1994. Yeah, 1994, Speed, Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. That was also another really cool, good action movie that is definitely worth watching. How can I not mention this? Black Rain, 1989 with Michael Douglas. This is actually one of his one of his most underrated movies. And this is probably one of the only Michael Douglas movies that I really, really enjoyed, where he played this character in the movie called, his name was Nick Conklin. He was like a dirty New York City cop, but he would always get the job done. He was just a guy who had like tunnel vision. He was just after the win. A lot of times he would like break the rules and do whatever it took to just get basically get the win, get the bad guy. And I really relate to his character. I like his character in that movie, and I enjoy that film a lot. And it's one of my favorites. I didn't include it on this list, but it definitely deserves honorable mention. And it's got one of the most badass endings ever. I love the ending of Black Rain, and I love the movie Black Rain. So I highly recommend you watch that. 1989, Michael Douglas, Black Rain. Yeah, that was high at the top of my list that I wanted to mention. And that's probably the last one I'll mention is, Black Rain. Go watch that. So, if you have any other of your favorites that you want to mention or you think deserve honorable mention, or you have your own list, your own top 10 list, feel free to include it below and share it with the tribe here. Share it with everybody else. And for you guys who have other favorite movies that you want to share as well, go ahead and drop them in the comments below and let me know. Maybe there's a movie I haven't seen that you like, and maybe other guys can comment why they if they saw that movie, why they liked it, why they didn't like it. I don't like too many of the newer movies. As you know, after the year 2000, that is when the movie industry, the music industry, both of those industries started to get taken over by, SJWs and feminists. Now they're just loaded with propaganda. Most of the movies after the year 2000, especially the ones lately, the last 10 years, they're not even trying to hide it anymore. It's like blatant propaganda in these movies. And this is why I don't support those movies. So I did a coaching video about a week ago talking about my top 7 alpha traits, and I said like music and movies are garbage these days. And then some people are like, what's wrong with music and movies? And it's like, dude, watch my coaching videos. I've always said it's movies after the year 2000. Not all, but a whole lot of them, right? Look what happened to Star Wars. Look what happened to Mad Max, right? Speaking of Mad Max, that's another one that deserves honorable mention, is the original Mad Max. Not the new one with the Charlize Theron that's been feminized, but the original Mad Max, 1979 with Mel Gibson. And then there was a sequel to that called The Road Warrior, 1981, I believe. That was also just a really badass movie, and badass car in that movie. So the first 2 Mad Maxes, actually there was a third sequel. That was okay. That was in 1985. That was called Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. All the 3 original Mad Max movies are definitely worth watching. The new one with the Charlize Theron, no, you're just going to get like brainwashed. Right, you're just going to get the SJW brainwashing. So this is why I don't support those movies. For all those guys like, what's wrong with movies? I'm like, go look at the movies that are being made as of late. That's what's wrong with it. So yeah, I think that will conclude my list. But again, leave your comments below and let me know some of your favorites as well. And with that said, I'm going to wrap up here. Until next time, this is Matt Cross from AlphaMaleSecrets signing out here from my garage again with the DeLorean. As always, don't forget to smash that like button below and also hit that notification bell right next to it so you're notified whenever I release a brand new coaching video here on the YouTube. More importantly, guys,
remember to subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a ton with the YouTube algorithm since they don't want to promote my coaching videos, right? I need your help to do that. And the way you can do that is by subscribing to my channel. Okay, it helps me out a ton with the YouTube algorithm, more than you know. So please make sure you're subscribed as well. And for you guys who want to support my work and all of this red pill, gold pill, and platinum pill content that I am teaching you here even further, the best way to do that is by becoming a premium subscriber of my premium Alpha Male Secrets channel, which I'm hosting on a private platform away from YouTube. And the reason I'm doing that is to protect my content from YouTube in the event that they try to shut me down one day, which they might. But even in the event that they do, all of my premium Alpha Male coaching lessons will be protected, and they will still be up, available for viewing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because we're on this private platform that I am paying to be on, right? And right now it's only $1 for the entire first month of premium Alpha Male Secrets coaching lessons from me that you will not find on this channel. So take advantage of it. Okay, it's only $1, and all you need to do is click that link below in my description box. It will take you over to my website where you can get signed up right now. It just takes 2 seconds, so do that now, and I will see you in my next coaching video.